Welcome back. Pamina Swenena, CEO of Corporate Staffing Services, back with your weekly dose of HR mentoring. So, we talked last time about the heartbreak of having your professional advice ignored. Today, I want to talk about the silent lessons of our profession, the things they never put in the textbooks, the things we are never taught in a HR class. You can pass your CHLP exams, but nothing prepares you for the 5 painful truths that every HR professional eventually learns on the job. So I'm here to tell you to get ready because these lessons hurt, but they'll make you stronger. And on to the 5 painful HR lessons. The first lesson I would want you not to learn on the job, because I would want you to learn now, is that HR is not impartial. You always have to choose a side. And it's either the companies or the employees. So at university or CHLP class, they teach you that HR is the neutral, the balance scale between the employee and the employer. That's a beautiful theory. But here's the reality. You are paid by the employer. The employer is the one who deposits money at the end of the month. So the painful lesson here is that realizing that while you champion fairness, your ultimate responsibility is to protect the organization from legal and financial harm. So consider this example. An employee is technically wrong, but the manager is clearly a bully or one who is toxic. You are hurt as an individual, as a HR says, protect the employee. But then again, when you look at things from the company side, when you assess things, what are you forced to do? You are forced to protect the company from a costly constructive dismissal case by following procedure, even if the outcome feels harsh. So the lesson I would want us to learn is that you must learn to separate your personal empathy from your professional duty. Your responsibility is to follow the law and the best interest of the business. You are not a counselor, dear HR. You are a risk manager wearing a human face. The second painful lesson that most HR runs on the job is that the worst news is yours to deliver, and sometimes you deliver it alone. What do we see every day? The CEO gets the glory for the big deals. The salesperson gets the commission. But when the company must downsize, when someone must be let go just before Christmas, or when a disciplinary hearing ends in termination, you are the messenger of the bad news. And the painful lesson is that you are often the only person in the room when someone's life changes forever. And the emotional mess of dealing with that you sometimes stays with you for a very long time. So I have another example. So consider you are terminating a long-serving employee who is a friend or even maybe a mentor. The boss will simply give you marching orders, but they don't sit in the room. They don't see the tears or the shock. It's you who does. Dear HR, the painful lesson we must learn is that HR carries the emotional burden of the company. But you have to build boundaries and mechanisms to cope with this. You must develop a thick skin, not because you don't care, but because you have to survive the caring. I hope you got it. Not to stop caring, but to survive the caring, because you're a human being at the end of the day. On to our third painful lesson, and this one is big, and this one applies especially in Kenya, where you find majority of the businesses are either owner managed or you're reporting to, the structures are not there. The third painful lesson is that culture is not set by HR, it's set by the boss. So how many times have you as HR created a beautiful policy on, let's say, open communication or work-life balance, something that is supposed to help the organization? So you push the memos, you discuss with the other managers, you're given approval, you run the training. But then the CEO sends a demanding email at 10 p.m. or the board ignores all your effort after doing all the hard work that you've done. Dear HR, the painful lesson here is that HR can only manage the culture the senior leadership permits. You can't draft a policy to fix a bad leader. You can't. It's impossible. I have another example. still in the reins of culture. So let's say you launch a wellness program to combat burnout. The day after, a director publicly criticizes an employee for taking their full maternity leave. And this is someone who's clearly entitled to that maternity leave. It's not that the company is doing them a favor. So what happens? I mean, do you think the employees will take you seriously after that? They will not. So the painful lesson, dear HR, is that you should stop trying to fix the culture from the bottom up. Your job is to advise the leaders on the legal and the commercial consequences of the culture they are actually creating. Because it's the top management that creates the culture. If the CEO is toxic, I'm sorry to tell you, that HR manual is just but a piece of paper. On to the fourth painful lesson, and this one is all about process. Process is an unpopular necessity. Understand that. Process is an unpopular necessity. So when a serious offense happens, let's say theft, insubordination, or harassment, everyone wants the employee out immediately. They want instant justice or mob justice, as we say in Kenya. So as the HR professional, you are the one who has to stand up and say, wait, we need to issue a show cause letter. We need a disciplinary hearing. We need an unbiased panel. This is the due process required by the Employment Act, Section 41 and Section 42. The painful lesson is that following the law will make you look slow, sometimes bureaucratic, and unsympathetic to the business. However, those are the tough decisions that you have to make. I have another example for you. Consider a manager who catches an employee stealing petty cash and demands immediate dismissal. You have to explain to the management and to the CEO that failure to conduct a proper hearing will result in an unlawful termination suit, costing the company hundreds of thousands and sometimes millions. So dear HR, the painful lesson here is that we as a HR or you have to embrace the role of the procedural protector. You're not protecting the bad employee, you're protecting the company from the court. And being unpopular is a sign you're doing your job correctly. So anytime you do your job correctly and you find you are crashing with the other managers or the CEO or the board, please know that you're doing your job correctly. The fifth and last painful lesson is that you will be the fall guy, but only if you let yourself be. This is the hardest lesson and the one that breaks my heart many times because I see this happening every day. When things go wrong, let's say a failed recruitment, a lost court case, a drop in morale, staff morale, it's so easy for the top leadership to point the finger at HR. The painful lesson is that without a clear paper trail, you'll be held responsible for the consequences of decisions you post. And this brings us back to what we discussed last week. Your primary protection as the HR is documentation and communication. If you advised against hiring a candidate because they lacked the proper qualifications and experience, put it in writing. If you warned the board about an uncompliant contract, put it in writing. The paper trail is your professional armor. Do not accept blame for someone else's ultimate decisions. And when you're putting it in writing, copy your personal email. Let it go on record that you raised such and such concerns. To my fellow HR professionals, you're not a failure. If someone overrules your professional, legally sound advice and the company ends up in a costly court battle, you have done your part. It's not your wrongdoing. You are accountable for your advice, not for their decision. And remember my tough advice from last time. If your current organizational culture is toxic, where your professional advice and opinion are constantly ignored, leading to you being stressed, burnout, and even exposing the company to litigation, then it's time to seriously consider another job. There are companies out there that deserve your talent. As I conclude, I have a question for you. What are some of the painful lessons that you've learned working in corporate Kenya that I've missed out? Please do share in the comment section below, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.